Thank you. Today's the 19th of December 2016 and I've come to interview. Can you pronounce your name properly for me actually?
It's Binghi Konganaya.
Binghi Konganaya.
Yeah,
Well, you put the right honourable Binghi Konganaya.
Well, in different fields I have a different title. Like,
okay.
you know, among my children I'm a father.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so and among in RasTafari Global Council, I'm the right honourable. But my as spiritual title is the I Binghi Konganaya.
Okay.
So that cover all things. But different people call me different things based on the role that I play in that family, home, community. You know, like within the Boboshanti order is about right over wrong. You know, so man of right, you know, is God in flesh, and man of wrong is like the devil in flesh in simple terms.
Right.
You know, so it's important to be right in Rastafari and be living in the right way. It's important to be honorable. Understand? And when you verbalize it, you make yourself it and you live it and you set an example as you go along. So titles also help in spiritual training, cultivation as well.
Okay.
And identity.
And can you tell me a bit more about the Nyabinghi? Because you said the Nyabinghi. What's the Nyabinghi?
Well, the Nyabinghi stand for, you know, debt to all oppressors. You know, the Nyabinghi says that the hungry must be fed, naked clothed, sick nourished, infants cared for, age protected, and the ignorance instructed. So that's the order of the Nyabinghi. Headquarters of the Nyabinghi is in Jamaica, Scotch Pass.
Jamaica?
Scotch Pass.
What's that, sorry?
Scotch Pass is the Nyabinghi headquarters in Jamaica. It's a place where
okay.
It was donated by Rita Marley and Bob Marley. You know, I mean, there's a bit of, you know, taking back nowadays, and there's only 5 acres still left for the Rastafari. But before, prior to now, you know, that is the main headquarters for the Nyabinghi. And it is said that because when the king visited Jamaica, he traveled on the train line and crossed that land, so it would be one of the most significant points of the Nyabinghi order. Also, you have some very ancient priests that have, you know, lived and counseled up on that hill. So, you know, his works and the energy is still emanated from there.
Okay. And just so I really understand. So a Nyabinghi is a type of Rastafari house. Is it a Rastafari house?
Within the Rastafari house in Haile Selassie house, it is said to have many mansions. So there will be because it's full of leaders, you know, people who take leadership for our culture. So the Nyabinghi order is one of the first orders of the Rastafari, you know, where but you also have or we call it mansion. So you also have the 12 tribe of Israel, which is another mansion. And you have the Boboshanti or the EIBIC, you know, which is another order. And we also include, say, the Ethiopian Orthodox, because many Rastafari, especially of the older generation, they do move on to being Ethiopian, baptized in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, but still holding some identity towards Rastafari original houses where they come from, like from the Nyabinghi or so. So Nyabinghi, no, and overall, Nyabinghi, how it all works in unity is like this. The Nyabinghi is more, have a different nature. They all have a different nature and a different role. It's like a body with different functions. So you have the Nyabinghi would be more like the warriors. They have a more warrior nature, a more kingly nature, a more assertive nature. And you know, they're a lot more serious. I mean, I'm not in the space that they don't laugh, but you know, a lot more martial.
Okay.
Right? So the Nyabinghi take that role. They wear the locks out in order to get, you know, like the antennas, you know, picking up the frequency, because you know the locks is one of our greatest thing in our African, you know, culture, you know, because we alone have this ear, I and I alone. So it's a thing to be proud of. It's like the crown. So the Nyabinghi show that as the crown, pick up, and they use it to pick up all the frequencies from the universe.
So can you expand on what you mean by the frequencies from the universe?
Yeah, I'll expand on that, but I'll just touch a little bit quickly on the other orders so you can compare.
Yes.
The Boboshanti, more of a priestly order. So they wear the turban.
Okay.
Like, you know, there's scriptures like in Zechariah where it says, let, you know, the priest Joshua come before the Most High wearing a clean turban. So the Rastafari, the Boboshanti order do wear with the turban, and they speak in a like a monotone way, not no shouting. You know, they're very calm because of that priestly order. And to be a priest, you have to have your house in order. You know, so you have to be your family has to be in good condition. You know, that everyone can see that that family has no arguments and these things. So the Boboshanti priests are all priests along Rastafari, but in general, the Boboshanti stand for like the priesthood.
Okay.
Yes, but even though each individual house have priesthood, but in a general overview, 12 tribes of Israel now, they are more, you know, they're more open to a lot of discussions. They're like prophets, so they will talk to people. They welcome all races, and they talk with anyone, and they will explain things for a very long time. You know, because they're prophets. They're more like teachers, and they have time to explain things in that way. So just a brief touch on that. If we move forward to the locks now, well, yes, the locks are antennas. You know, I mean, there's ample research out there where a lot of people know about the significance of the hair. You know, and the how important your hair is to you. And so I will, without going over some of those things, for the Rastafari, it starts with, as I said, this African identity. So, you know, if this was cut off or jerry curl, then I would look like someone who is confused about my identity. You know, and to be African, you know, is to accept the way you are, which we are, and we identify. So it's the first thing about the locks is our identity. We get from that now, from that identity, we get mystic. I say mystic, but it's not really mystic. It's just a natural thing. You know, the universe is there, and man has to align himself with the universe, because the universe is mightier than what we see here. So the sun provides life to us, and all the things beyond that, and the stars tell us stories. You know, it's like the universe is the language of the Most High Jah. So you just need to understand the universe, how each day roll in, right? And know the will of the Most High, and to intuit the plan that the whole world was created at. It's right there in the universe. So with the Rastafari and the locks, you know, and drinking the water has been here from the beginning of time, and breathing in the air of the universe. So, and that helped to channel in and to know the will of the Most High. Because if you wake up each day, one of the most important things for I and I Rastafari is to know the will of the Most High. When you know the will of the Most High and can intuit the plan, the divine plan for all creation, then it's easier for you to know what is your duty here today, which a lot of people get confused about. You know, not knowing why you're here, what you're here to achieve, what you need to learn in this time. Because life is the grand lesson set out for everyone by the grand master, grand teacher, grand creator, the Most High, the living I, which is within all of I and I. And so the greatest knowledge is to know oneself. So, you know, it helps and assists on the journey to knowing ourselves, because at least we can know firstly that I and I is African, just because of I and I here. And then I and I realize that now I here, you know, give I also a responsibility, because in Rastafari it's about father maintenance, you know, it's about responsibilities. So, you know, if you're seen by the people as someone consecrated unto the Most High, you know, it's a responsibility as well. And to whom much is given, also much is required. So while we connect and overstand and broaden the awareness, it brings more responsibility for I and I Rastafari. And to be wise and to have knowledge and understanding does take experience as well.
Thank you. I want to ask a bit about the language of Rastafari, like things like I and I. And overstanding. If you could just expand a bit about what it means or how you use the language.
Well, Rastafari have a whole language, or a way we communicate. Yes, especially during prayer, meditation, and chanting.
Okay.
So the I and I is mainly for that. For chanting, and it's also for training yourself in spiritual cultivation. Like, it has rules which you can understand, meaning, like, for example, we don't say you and me, we say I and I. So you do I and I, and what that does, even the more you say it and embrace it, what we're trying to say is that we're all divine beings. So, you know, and I'm seeing it in you, I'm seeing it in myself. And also, you know, we are helping ourselves to grow and identify with that divinity within us, because that's the true I and I. So we use terms like I and I just to say you instead of you and me. We say I and I to say we.
So I and I is something that it's looking at almost like the collective, whereas you and I is dividing.
Yes,
is that it? You want to steer away from this division of you and the separateness of two people, to look at I and I, that it's both, we're in this together.
Yes, because what I and I is highlighting is the actual truth. There's one truth upon the face of the earth, and it's that everything is interconnected, interrelated, interdependent on each other as fixed by nature. Right? So from that is solid. Now, where we are differentiated at the moment, so I'm sitting, I and I is sitting here, and the I is sitting there. You know, it takes time for you to get this awareness that I is actually the I, experiencing the world in a multitude of beings. It's like you have an ocean, but glass of water from the ocean is still same in quality, but not in quantity. So we're different glass of the same ocean, same thing, same I and I. And this, because many religions tell you that, all right, we was made in the image and the likeness of your creator. That's what most religions tell you.
Yes.
But if a religion tell you that, wouldn't it be logical? If someone said to me, I'm like my father, then I would say to them, what about me is like my father? Do I talk like my father? Do I look like my father? What is it? And then even people have a problem with that as well, because if you say that we were made in the image and the likeness of the Most High, but you got people out there doing very negative things which we all would go ooh about. So what part of them are us, are everybody, is what is our likeness? What is that specifically? And what that is specifically is the I, the living I. So the I has different qualities. So we have like the I would be like your conscience, you know, divine intelligence. Then you have as well, you know, you got your verbal faculty, you got imaginative faculties, you got the ability to change, to transform, to change habits and things like that. So we have like 11 faculties across the I and I, across our being, across the levels of our existence, which is physically, spiritually, and mentally. It's all one chain, but the flesh is the densest and the spirit is the less dense. But it's one channel.
Right.
It's one thing, and we are a divine being, and the I stands for everything. The I unify all our different faculties, syllogistic thinking, verbal faculties, everything is governed by the I and I. It's like a conscience that rod and staff that lead, guides you, tells you what's right, tells you what's wrong. And that, when you was born, that is what was held in potential in the Rastafari liberty. And you as you grow, because children, like for example, they would take a toy from a next child and smile. Yeah? But as you grow up and your conscience develop, you understand certain principles which are passed on to you through stories like the African stories that teach you principles. There's no other way to teach a principle. You don't, like in the Western culture, you don't just tell your child not to do that. You have to teach them a principle via a story. That's how it goes into the mind.
Yes.
Yes. So we that's how we live in Rastafari culture and liberty.
It's very, very fascinating to think about philosophy in it.
Yes.
I'm still trying to let that settle in. But I like the way you kind of explained that, because I knew bits. I got a simplistic understanding for this research of what is I and I. But the way you kind of expanded on it.
Well, I can go further.
Sure.
Because the I and I
Yeah.
is it's like I and I is consciousness itself. Conscious of being conscious. Because, like for example, academically and scientifically, we should be able to prove anything we say, right? But the I and I is that conscience is something you got to sense. Every other faculty we can prove by reasoning or by actual facts. But with the I and I is something you have to experience. So you mentioned earlier about the overstanding.
Yes.
So Rastafari, we begin where we was under the stand, where we did understand, where everything that the slave master said, he say yes sir, and everything they say we have to say yes sir. We understand it, sir, but that's when we was under the stand, right? So as time move on, and the Rastafari take his kingship and her queenship, yeah, and their princeship and princesship. What's happened now, cause we are African divine beings, I and I overstand.
Okay.
We don't take no authority from no one. You understand? We're dealing with corruption and evil. Because why would the wicked man rule? If the wicked man rule, we're all in trouble. It's where the Rastafari humble himself. It's a humble yourself and you shall be exalted. We humble ourselves and go through life and take the time to learn nature and creation. Then the most I say to you, now it's rulership time. Because the humble should never allow the arrogant to rule. Many people Rastafari didn't know that the road of humbleness was the road to leadership when they start that road.
Okay.
But reaching to a heights of humbleness, then you cannot sit still and allow corruption to go on in your neighborhood and your community and your nation. Or you cannot allow injustice to prevail, and you are here in existence to do something about that, right? Because it's a responsibility. Awareness makes responsibility. So the more one become aware, is the more we have to do. So when Babylon or certain people try to dictate where we should go a road where people are suffering because of it. Collateral damage. You buy gas. All for Africans. Dead over the oil, the diamonds, the coltan. All kinds of things where there's no money in it for them down there. But we supporting it makes everything 10 times worse and make it continue through a generation, right? Now we can't be under the standard of all of that. have to try to overstand that now. And then we even understand when it's deep things like the I and I, things that you have to experience with your being and sense and know what is right and know what is wrong. Be able to suss things out for yourself. Rather than if I give you a bottle and it says on it sweet cherry, but it's poison in it. Right? Not because it says sweet cherry, I'm gonna drink that. I'll test it, and if it's poison, I'm not drink it. It's as simple as that. But you know, the mind that is not fully developed will easily take a word as a definition. So you see a bottle, you see that label, and you say, okay, sweet cherry, and you drink it, poison dead.
It's very the more I'm talking to a different Rastafari, the more I see it's very deep and rich.
Yes.
And then part of me always feels that how can this message be understood by people that are not Rastafari?
Well, it is already happening, right?
Okay.
Rastafari is an amalgamation of everything that was and is to be. Yeah. You're talking about the intuition that happened there in Jamaica, yeah, amongst the Kumina people, yes, African people, intuit their way to this overstanding, right? And it's an amalgamation of what was. We look at our culture and love it all and embrace all the good, you understand? And what is to be. Rastafari is almost, it's like another African tribe, you understand?
Okay.
Welcomed into Africa. It's a new African tribe, yes, but it's new, and you know that it's not been colonized. We invented it ourselves. African invented, so we invented reggae music, everything, the way how we chant, the way how we worship. The way of life, we invented it, you know, as a intuition for our development against what we were facing at the time and what we will face in the future.
Okay. And
how we want to rebuild Africa, how we want to re-enter and solve the problems. Because we not, as we said, Nyabinghi order, hungry must be fed, naked clothed, sick nourished, infants cared for, age protected. These are all institutes, massive institutes where Rastafari, so we have our whole plan. But we started, and you know, we weren't built by the slave master. So African people should welcome us, and they already are. Look, you know, one of the first words, the first line of Zimbabwe independence was what? Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Marley. See what I'm saying? So Bob Marley, Rastafari is there with us. We're celebrating with Africans, so we celebrate the independence of Nigeria, Ghana, everywhere. You know, like we heist the Ghana flag tonight. So we show our love to Africa. So I mean, Africa should welcome us with love. We know that there might be still things to overcome, but you know, that's our personal business. You know, we can solve that when we're ready, especially when we know we have a common enemy. Sometimes we might have things against each other, but when you got something common to stand for, then we just have to stand for it. And we have to definitely stand for our culture, because we love our culture. Why would you, when you want to sit in some boring thing that you don't like? We like Rastafari liberty, so people like Rastafari liberty. We've created music, we've shared with the world the full overstanding of herbs. You know what I'm saying? And they, as you can tell, they're multi-using it now. So with music and herbs and our way of life. Look, with ital food that we eat. Many days Rastafari said, no, we not eat that, and we don't want that with the preservatives, and we don't want that. Then you find out people used to say, oh, they're just weird, bit funny, they're too serious. And then when they find out, years later, people are dead. They catch this disease and that disease from eating this and eating that. Then now you have a vegan food craze in the world. Like Rastafari has been way ahead of that vegan food craze. Rastafari is way ahead of that medical marijuana stuff. You know, we're way ahead of a lot of things, and we're still way ahead of what is to come. So African people on a whole, and the world, any nation need Rastafari, but you have to be sincere to get the full understanding of Rastafari. You know, many people will say many things about Rastafari because yes, we do. Some of us are, you know, self-styled philosophers, you know, because we reason in order to understand where our position, where we are in this specific, you know, location. Many people face different fights depending on where you're born and what, you know, and what you're going through. Everyone have a little different situation, so there will be a little bit of diverse to it. You know, I mean, I stand forward with the RasTafari Global Council as like, you know, a definitive explanation for Rastafari. So we tell the world what Rastafari is, rather than them coming in and writing little things about us here and there and there and telling us that they emanated from the Mao because they want us to look kind of fierce. Then some another scholar writing this and that. We tell you what I and I is.
And that's why I'm interviewing, because I've done, I've read, and I think that thing about the Mao, the little things, and it's like, well, there's no, I can't use it as evidence because I can't now go and look at actually the original. Where did that come? It's some kind of supposition. So it's good that the RasTafari Council have that objective to tell.
Yes. To
tell people. And what formats would you tell? Where would you do the telling?
I have a groundation pack which explain everything.
Oh. Where's the groundation pack?
I can send you a copy.
Oh, online. It's online.
Yeah. Well, yes. The website is down at this end of year, but because of refurbishment. Redecoration.
Okay.
You know, some, you know, Rastafari said forward ever and backward never. But we've learned in these times, sometimes you have to take one step back in order to take two steps forward. So what's happened is, you know, we've had to reorganize and structure certain projects because of informers and, you know,
Sorry, informers.
Informers, yes.
Sorry, I don't understand that. Informers in your.
You know, everything, everywhere in the world, you know, you have informers.
What do you mean informers? Sorry.
I mean, informers are people who have bad intentions.
Oh, within the organization.
Within the world.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but people within the world do have bad intentions.
Okay.
And sometimes they don't like to see good.
Yes,
you know, and progress. But we make a lot of progress, and we have the absolute solution, meaning that Rastafari mission is to organize, centralize, and mobilize. So what the council do is we have discussions with the leaders, all the leaders them. So all the issues then can be stated here. So you get a collective voice when representing on a government scale and an international scale. You know, so like we have UN looking forward to making certain address to the UN with you gaining UN consultative status and these things. So, you know, in order to always, you know, be representing Rastafari in a one voice, but yet still a collective, and properly assessed and put together, so that, you know, we don't get too much of a confusion, you know. And also, so like for example, what it is, the institutes used to always try to say, oh, Rastafari is not a recognized religion. Well, obviously they can't tell a competent Rastafari that because he's standing in front of you. So there's been discrimination against Rastafari on many levels. Even you can just think about the legalization, the legalization of herb, you know, they saying it's illegal. Or, you know, for example, but what they're trying to say when they say Rastafari is not recognized, what they really should be saying is, we don't have any documents with how to deal with you, how to address you, what we can't do and what we can't do with you. You know, so like if a Rasta was in prison, or a police encountered, or he went to school or a university, you know, people might not, where there's no document where they understand these are your festives, so you might take this day off and that day off, you know, or you know, you can't touch their locks unless you have some kind of video evidence with him doing something, putting some weapon in there or something.
Okay,
you know, you just need to know, they need to know the guidelines of how to deal with Rastafari. And that's one of the main important things why I've created the Groundation Pack in order to educate institutes and give them also a synopsis of service.
It's really needed, because even when writing my essay, I wasn't sure, I couldn't find it, if Rastafari actually contacted Robbie Shilliam to say, is it a recognised religion? Because I know there was a Catholic commission in 1982, I'm not sure if that's 1981 or 1982, that they recommended that it should be a recognised religion, but the trail went cold then. I didn't know where to go and look up. Where do I look up? Where do I find out? I know there have been changes. For example, in prisons they've been allocated certain holidays. But I'm not sure. I know you're in front of me, and it sounds like a very silly question. But when you're writing, for academic purposes, to say, well, yes, it is a recognised religion, or not.
All right.
So that Groundation Day would be, that document you have will be very kind of useful. So I would like to have it, and actually also part of my project, one of the things I want to do is put links and for me to help disseminate the message as much as I can, or the interest. Not that I'm Rastafari and I don't have the authority, but actually I think as I'm getting more awareness, I think other people should have that awareness. I feel knowledge is very important, and I want people to get that knowledge and that understanding about something as important as the philosophy, the liberty, and all the things that you explained about Rastafari, especially for the African community in England, or the African community in Amsterdam, because there's been a lot of migration of people from the continent to Europe in the last 20 years, and there's a generation of children growing up now that will, because their parents don't know, it's just not in the radar. It's just not in the radar. I mean, years ago there used to be more, Rastafari actually used to be more visible. You used to see more Rastafari on the streets. I don't know why, has everyone now gone back to Jamaica, or gone back to, are they now in Shishimane, or are they now gone back to Africa? That you don't see many Rastafari. So there'll be young people that actually don't even really, they're not confronted with Rastafari.
Well,
that's just my impression. I might be wrong. It's anecdotal evidence.
I think, I would say a lot of things about what you're saying, but let's start from the ending and go back to the beginning, right? So youths love Rastafari. I do a lot of speeches in universities, colleges, community center. Different people ask me. I can remember even doing one for a youth like a youth hubs where a lot of youths go to. They invited me as one of the Rastafari leaders, or one of the faith leaders.
Yes.
As usual. Because I play that role, leadership in Rastafari, liberty and faith, so I will represent Rastafari, because obviously that's where we are missing.
Yes.
And I obviously will stand to help out to do whatever I do, because I work for Rastafari. I'm a Rastafari ambassador, so I will do the works. So what I'm saying is, as an example, I always remember this, as soon as I put my flag down and my books them, all the youths come over to my table. Okay. Obviously the first question, do Rastas still smoke weed and this and that, but they love Rastafari.
Fantastic.
The music, they're asking questions,
Yes.
And I would talk to them, but they're very, they relate to us a lot more than other faiths. And even troubled youths, from good youths to troubled youths, they still hear the Rasta. Youths even hide their gun if they see Rasta coming. We have influence on the street. Wow. In a day-to-day, people, they would look like, if there was to be, they identify with us. And if there was to be, like, say, any religion or faith, they would choose Rasta.
That's amazing.
That do make us get some of the roughs at the initial, because Rasta used to have a saying that if your mother and father forsake you, Rasta will take you. Okay. So, we get some of the roughest people, throughout history. And even some of the roughest people are identified with our liberty, Yes. And young people especially, they like like our music.
Yes.
I love our Sizzler, Capleton, some of the,
What's that, Sizzler?
Sizzler,
What's
we keep
that?
some leading, these are some leading reggae artists
Okay.
right now and singers.
I want to know
Right?
Chronic.
Yeah, Chronix. Chronix is a young fire, and obviously, he's creating a very good energy. But
Yes.
a lot of them out there
Yeah.
create a good energy where they use them are connected because reggae music
Yes.
is in the dance hall too, So even many people relate to it. Africans, same people who love Afrobeats, love
Yes,
bashment
of
and
course.
reggae,
Okay.
Rasta thing,
Yeah.
right? And remember, reggae was created by Rastafari people. You understand? In around that same era because we want to create our own vibes and non-colonized vibes and natural inspired vibes, intuitive within our own mind. You understand?
Yes.
Because we started by one of the main things is to reject everything that they say. Because we know that you can't mean us no good when you've just had us at war and slavery. And nothing you tell us can be good, so we reject that. And start building our own. And then we build a little bit, we can come and meet you back now. Where we have some economics and some kind of plan set up in our own realm without your interference. And then we learn to work with the former colonizers if they can adhere to the universal human rights. And the charters set forth by the UN and the African Union, which is originally the Organization of African Unity, formed by His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie, assisted by Kwame Nkrumah. You see, now the king, really the first thing in Rastafari is Haile Selassie, is the Almighty. Now Haile Selassie is the liberator of Africa. When he was crowned as King of Kings, the whole of Africa was under slavery. And he worked to make sure that all of Africa liberated. He's an international statesman. Where we go, he built a school. On 13 honorary law degrees, 13 languages. He's a scholar. He look into things deep. And his message were for all the Africans, especially who travel to the West and gain certain amount of education. You understand? Because he knows that we are going to bring the change forward onto Africa. We are going to bring what Africa needs for its development. So Haile Selassie is one of the main things. Now if you go back to what you were saying in the beginning, yes, I mean, you mentioned Rabbi Shillam, Dr. Rabbi Shillam. He used to work for I in the RasTafari Global Council, a very, genius young man, and we give thanks. The thing is, I've had a lot of experience on the ground, standing for Rastafari rights. And I heard you mention now in the prisons that certain things have changed. I was invited to be as part of that change, to guide the government through that change.
What platform was this?
RasTafari Global Council and RasTafari Council of Britain. I'm the founder.
Okay, and then who did you work with in the government? Was this with the?
Well, the head of the prison service.
Okay.
I keep forgetting his name.
No, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I just needed to know you worked
with
in prison.
Even the day we had a meeting with them, because we had to actually step in on the negotiations. Because I'll give you some Rasta history quickly if you want.
Please.
The Rastafari Heritage from Birmingham was working with the prisons to set up to give the prison guidelines on how they should sort out Rastafari. When I realized that from the Council of Britain, we are the Council of Britain, so I would always deal with these kind of issues better than a heritage organization.
Yes.
So obviously, and I know the people who run that organization well as well. So I just contact them and let them know, look, I would take over this now, because obviously we're fully aware how to do this, and we have the scholars there, people like you just mentioned, Robbie and Tony Tafari, myself, and others that we work with closely in order to get Rastafari job done properly. And I'm very sensitive about these things, so we took it over, we met with them, and everything was going good, but there's a point where the heritage organization, they went back to working with the heritage organization to complete the task. And I can tell you the reason why, because I have a history still. I'm a man who's been to prison already, right? And I win my human rights, yeah. And that was the first time someone ever directly told me that Rastafari is not a recognized religion, right? So, but what I have to say is, I want my chance to chant on my Sabbath. It's very serious to me. They don't facilitate for Rastafari in prison at that time. Understand? In any way, shape or form. So it took me a little while, but I won the case to come out every Friday.
You had a law case?
Yeah, I just win it in
okay,
in
so I can check that. I'll use that in my
yeah, it's
research.
I have the documents I can show you.
Okay.
It's an internal complaints procedure then.
Okay.
It didn't reach
it didn't go far.
It didn't go to
the court. But you still
they settled it, yeah.
Okay.
I can give you a copy of
Thank you, that'll be very useful, and I'll use it in my research to actually say, well, this is you contributed in some way, initiating that that dialogue for you to have access to practice your religion within the prison institution.
Well, I would rather the way how I done it. I'm the only man in history, only being in history who has come out of jail, released on a Friday from 12 o'clock to come back 12 o'clock in the night to go out and. So
you were given permission to leave, to go and chant,
yes,
and then come back.
Yes,
that's amazing. So this definitely is going to be in my thesis.
Yeah, people did laugh after me when they thought when they realized I was fighting to come out to pray and to chant.
Yes.
But obviously, your rights is your rights, and I'm serious about this. I'm in a place where every other religion gets dealt have the access to what they need. Yeah. But Rastafari don't. It's quite a serious issue. And obviously they were able to see it before it went. Before it went to court. Obviously at first I was like no. But your rights is your rights. And so obviously I'll bring all of that energy into my 2012 negotiation with them. So many years after, because the incident I'm telling you about is like 2001ish, right? And now back in 2012 now, I'm an ambassador dealing with Rastafari issues with the prison service, where they're considering getting chaplains into prison. But I know Rastafari. No Rastafari priest wants to go into a prison.
Okay.
Yes? You can't. We don't want to go into a prison. We want to come out of the prison. Because Rastafari break every chain. You understand? So the Lion of Judah break every chain.
Right.
Yeah? You're a Rastafari. Yeah. Why would you want to go in? So they messed up there by making the heritage organization continue in the negotiation, and now Rastafari priest is allowed into prison. Some might celebrate that, but I personally, I feel it should be the opposite way, the way I was negotiating it.
So what you're saying is the authorities did not really understand the whole concept, because the way you just explain it to me, that a Rastafari would not want to break the chain, would not want to be going into that institution.
Well, I'm explaining that to you. That wasn't explained to them. You understand?
It wasn't but even if it wasn't explained to them, I'm not sure if they would understand, or even definitely understand.
Well, I didn't.
That thinking of, because I understand now. I understand, but I'm not in authority. I don't have to make any decision. I can understand the sentiment and the sensibility that the Rastafari would not want to go in. But I'm not sure if they would understand. They would understand that. But that's just by and by. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, but the thing is, our faith is our faith. Our liberty is our liberty, and it is very, very real to us.
Yes.
So, but what it is, if you're not fully strong in your stand for what it really is to the core. You can get swayed. Like, for example, when I was being okayed to come out of the jail, you know what they said to me? They said to me, all right, just for paperwork purposes, can we put you down as Ethiopian Orthodox? It would just be easier.
Yes.
I just went, no, I am a Rastafari. That's it. You see?
Yes.
Because, when people negotiate with you, I mean, it's good that the West, the prison can negotiate that. Look, we don't really want to facilitate this, and we don't really want to facilitate that. And the negotiator who is negotiating on behalf of Rastafari have to be wise enough and smart enough, and he have that understanding from the ancients,
yes,
in order to negotiate what Rastafari really want, and not just something that like a half a victory or a three-quarter victory,
I understand,
which
yes.
probably even compromise the fate.
I think so. And now
Right?
I like how you've said that, because I was thinking from the authority point of view, but actually, if you do want, they're not going to get a better understanding if you kind of compromise, because you compromise just for a short-term thing, or else I think what would be required there is for them to have an overstanding,
Yes.
an overstanding of the nuances and complications, complexities,
Yes.
or that they're dealing with, not trying to just put everything in a box. So it's very easy for them to just put it in a box and say, okay, we tick that box. But also there's so many strands, which requires a different way of thinking and to really grasp which is on another level. It seemed like it was a missed opportunity, actually. I'm now getting it, but I had to. You have to take time to think.
Yes.
Because most what's the word? Most people in authority, they do things for expediency.
Yes.
And my mind was for expediency. I can see where they're coming from, but actually, it suits them for expediency.
Yes.
Whereas there's so many things that they need to understand and make those accommodations for, to fully understand and respect where you guys are coming from.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and if they done it for me,
yes,
one being, 11 years prior,
yes,
right? Why am I entitled? Why did I stand for this?
Yes.
Just for everyone to get the opposite.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's not some fancy privilege, it's a real thing.
Yes.
It feels good. And it affirms the faith and the liberty. That's actually one of the firmest things I hold as a Rastafari. To know that my liberty, the liberty that I and I hold, it gives me freedom. Even if it's only for a few hours of a week.
Yes.
Yeah? Every week.
Yes.
It gives me a good feeling to know that I can that actually was one of the pillars of my faith. Understand?
Yes.
The earliest pillar of my liberty come from being a young child and having asthma. Asthma for many years. And no doctors give me injection. You know, my grandmother used to look after me every day. I used to be in the bed every day.
Was this in England?
When I was in Jamaica. Right?
Okay.
I grew up in Jamaica.
Okay.
Right? And what it is, I'm sick every day for so many years. And the Rastafari recommend to I and I grandmother to do the tincture of herbs, you know, in a special way prescribed by the Rastafari. And at first, she was not having it. But as time goes by, I even said to her in one of my sick times, you know, if you're not gonna sort me out, then just, you know, get rid of me. You know, and that thing broke her heart. And she went and tried the Rasta remedy. And it cured me within a week when I finally got it. So
I'm saying within Jamaica, Rasta are involved in kind of healing and...
Of course.
I didn't know that.
Rastafari, look, this is how you know.
Sorry, please excuse my ignorance. I did not know that.
Rastafari, you know, is instinctively a healer. And for many things that you have, just by how we eat, the way of life. So you're eating certain food that it stops depression, it stops illnesses. It actually cure. Prevention is better than cure. So we actually, I and I liberty actually prevent certain illnesses, you know, no cancer and these whole heap of things that people catch, right? By eating the right, you don't have that.
So using nutrition as medicine.
Using nutrition
as medicine.
As medicine.
Where did they learn that? Where did that come? Where did they learn that?
It's intuitively. Rastafari, firstly, it starts intuitively. because obviously the first Rastafari weren't exposed to a lot of books. We weren't even exposed to His Majesty's speeches. You understand? We weren't even know little history of Africa. Maybe there might be a book here and there. You know, I think one of the few books he used to have was a book called The Black Man's Bible, and we had a few things that Leonard Howell wrote, which was The Promise Key, and things like that. So we never really have an X amount of resources, which is proof that we actually intuited our way of life. We started to eat like the ancient Kamaru, the ancient Egyptians, and the ancient Ethiopians, straight away, intuitively. We started to remember things. I'm not talking about only in this life, but by drinking water, the spring water, which is here from the beginning of time, you know, memory comes to you. You have your antennas, you're drinking water, you're breathing, you know, herbs. So, you mentioned earlier, you mentioned about the drumming, the heartbeat. It's like the first points of creation. You got the water, you got the heartbeat, you got air. That's oxygen to that level. So, yes, Rastafari, you know, into it that way. Intuition comes, and it's proof that because they thought of things that before we even today we can read a book about His Majesty and this and that, but before we couldn't. And so we could have studied about the Mao and things, but that time at the originator we couldn't, because we didn't have access to that, and plus it weren't a book reading time. When you're in big trouble, you know, it's not book reading time. These days now it's a book reading time. There's no one trying to kill you because you're raised, not physically, but mentally. So you need to actually make yourself mentally strong now. Get some books in. Right? So yeah, the intuition taught us music, taught us the drumming. We got the drumming right, we got the food right, and the food helps. So the medicine also, we've learned plants, that is good for this and it's good for that, right? I wouldn't say that we've 100% mastered everything about it, but the things that we are used to in Jamaica, like the roots tonic. Roots is one of our greatest.
Is that ginger?
No, roots is a tonic made by Rastafari. With a mixture of chini roots, sarsaparilla, strongback, tiger, enough things, right? Prescribed roots, and when you ferment that, for a few months to years, it really gets strong. And what it does is a good energy boost. Good for the male, good for the female. So we've learned to make certain medicines and tonics out of and juices out of just fruits, roots, branches, stems. We make tinctures. We've been making tinctures before. It's a tincture that cures me. So tincture is when you soak like herbs or so within a solution of alcohol or so, and extract all the goodness from the plant. And we have all these kind of, and it's intuitive. It's definitely all intuitive, because we never had any education about medicine or anything, or why we went so into the herbs, like what they call cannabis. People would be amazed, but we knew intuitively by nature giving us that gift, to properly just the herbs would call us, and the herbs allow itself to speak through us. That's why I do a lot of I've done talks in universities regarding herbs, like London School of African Studies and Oriental Studies, Kent University, Greenwich University, talking about more or less the similar topic, herbs and the psychedelics and the mind, and that's because academics can realize that Rastafari has been ahead of the game. We have been using this thing way before. In fact, it's because of our use of it, even in a commercial aspect, why all the prohibition started. We used to, early Rastafari used to, sell herbs as well, because herbs alleviate you in many things. It's good for your healing. It's good for your therapy. Yeah. It's good for spiritual cultivation, but it's good for economics as well. You understand? Because Rastafari, herbs, any people need herbs. So Rastafari will sell herbs. And even that's how, early Rastafari was able to travel to even Ethiopia to see the king. and we do a lot of little things. Build in Jamaica, the Coptic Church built so many schools in Jamaica and Miami in the early days. That's the way Rastafari was heading, so that we could have our economics through music and our herbs, so we could actually do all the charitable and philanthropy stuff that we actually are inspired to do with this awareness. You know, we need schools. People need to go to school. There's a lady over there sick. There's a man over there sick. There's people in the house. You know, and we care. So we got to get moving. So when they see us moving, helping the people and it being effective in such a way, you know, and they want that profit themselves. So they take the profit, because, you know, herbs has been used in medicine for
time,
you know, I mean, like in the 50s upwards, you know, like, so, you know, if it's been used in like 70% of medicines for so long. You know, I've done talks with prohibition experts that are really go in on this topic. So to know the point where they started to, you know, make herbs illegal, right? And it's just to control it, yeah, and, you know, make all the things for themselves. You know, there are companies in the world, and in England we have like the GM pharmaceuticals, right, which they do earn like over 40 million a year, you know, doing what? Rasta job. Meaning Rasta, we have a part in that. And we don't want no license, because we don't need no license. You know, I can make an agreement with you if you want, yeah, but if you talk to me good, yeah, but we don't need a license. Never ever needed a license. As some herb never needed a license. Because the next thing you'll be charged for air. You'll be paying license for air and water. Like people pay water rates.
Yes.
Then you're gonna have to pay sun rate. It's ridiculous. We don't. So Rastafari is Rastafari straight through. Understand? And the concept is always clear, despite how the world developed. You understand? Because to be sovereign is the moral force of the earth. And from your moral and come in equity, which is clean hands and pure heart, then, you know, you're entitled to all the equitable remedy on the earth. You're entitled to travel the earth freely and do whatever. If you're destructive and these things harming others, then you can't be allowed these privileges on the earth. You know, and that's just how it is. I mean.
Wow, that's a lot. I'm curious to know, so you said, when did you become Rastafari?
Well, you know, they say Rastafari is Rastafari from the earth, from the touch earth, from your ICs, from the come on earth. But it's how long you take to know that.
Yes, when did you...
As said by the great man. Well, I knew it straight away, innit? Because, as I said, I had an experience when I was young.
When you were young and you started taking...
Yeah, firstly, I didn't tolerate combing my hair at all anyway and anything. So my grandparents know I have this trait about me. But obviously after I realized that it's the Rastafari intuition that cured my illness that no doctor could cure. Obviously.
How old were you?
I was like early before 10, maybe like 8.
Okay.
7. You know, obviously, so I missed a little bit of early school, but I come back in quickly and get myself to be, you know, academic in certain respects. You know, I always because I'm going to good schools and getting top grades and being selected for, like, you know, doing my exams then early. You know, like maths, you know, for example, you know, they took me, I remember do all the exam them early, so like from O level to the early AO, A levels, further maths, stuff like that. So, you know, I grow among a lot of academics and a lot of Rastafari, so I know what two people say, like the academics will say, child, them don't really know what them I say. And the Rasta will say, them don't really know what them I said. But they have reasons why. But I in the middle, because I with the academics still, because I have to do my work. But as well as I really trust and I know I've proven that these people talk sense. So I'm actually with them, you know, but I can hear the opinions of them. And what happens is Rastafari will always prove to be right. Like a Rasta say, don't do that, we burn that, we don't do that. Years later you find out that thing was a big trap that thing cause trouble.
Okay.
I noticed the Rasta will be saying this, and they will say, it's not unless it's being overzealous or whatever. And then later on they fall in the same trap like the Rasta. So I saw a pattern through my life. So I had no reason to change my ideology. Just grew more Rastafari, and obviously, when I get in a bit of trouble, it also bring everything forward to my head. You know ourselves proper when your back is against the wall. So and certain parts in my life, like having my first youth, because Rasta, when you have a child now, that's when the real Rastafari kick in. Because it's almost like you're not even a Rasta yet until you have a child. You're now like a creator.
Okay.
The real meaning of what it means to be God or a divine being now. You actually cross now. So life, you have responsibility, which the way how you deal with this responsibility is now your example.
Yes.
So it is very important also. Becoming a Rastafari is a growing process. So and now, yes, I'm mature in Rastafari. I'm professional in Rastafari. Amalgamating all of the teachings of the elders. I study it and embrace it and overstanding. I've done many listening, reason with an elder, and sit down and I said nothing for a while, just ask questions and get myself right, And I mean, there's a time now when you become a professional where you have to do the works. No more time to go back to the elder. When you go back, you're going with progress.
Yes.
Bringing something, not just going back to ask the same question, and not just leaning on them when they're getting older. Yeah, because they don't want no one leaning, and you need to come and uplift them, let them know that you took the button to the winning line, right? So that's what. So Rastafari is a journey. Not just a destination. So you don't just become really a Rastafari. So Rastafari is a way of life. So you're heading down this journey, and you have like important things to carry with you. You need to carry your health and strength. You need to carry emotional stability. You understand? You need to have fulfilling relations. So that you meet people is a good relation, or you profitable. You need to have even financial success as well. Is all a part of this journey. You travel, and we need like 7 things to travel with. 7 really important things. Like if you didn't have your health and strength, you can't be successful. You're losing. If you're not emotionally stable, if everyone you meet is just betrayal, it's just bad things, it's not success. It's not Rastafari. Rastafari is like a success system. It makes you healthy, makes you balanced. It makes you aware, clarifies you, and now you can go and do what your individual being was put here to do. The thing, your divine talent, the thing you probably do better than anyone else. The thing that when you're doing it, you're losing track of time. All in the morning, you're still, I must go to bed now, because your divine duty just is unveiling to you. Because like the bees, if the bees didn't do what the bees is supposed to do, then the ego fall out of balance. And imagine a bees compared to a divine being, I and I, not doing what you are supposed to do. Because we're here in the earth, and remember we said the truth is that everything is everything, connected and all that. So you do something, affects me. I do something, affects you. That's what awareness helps you with. Awareness in Rastafari, as it grows, not just get it just like that. As it grows, each year with the cycle of time. So each year you have a cycle where the sun travels. So the sun travels like now, tomorrow is winter solstice. So the sun will go at its lowest. And then on 25th, the sun rises to its highest. And the journey continues, and you have 4 equinox. That's your growing time. That's Rastafari. You live your life through that and judge yourself at the end of the year. You judge yourself each night. We call it check yourself before you wreck yourself. The ancient Kama with the Egyptians would call it the weighing of the heart ceremony.
Yes.
It's where you look into your heart and you look into your actions for the day. And when you wake up in the morning, the result is there. So every day you get your results of your tests, and you just continue living as Rastafari. So I'm a Rastafari from my youth. But you know, it's just through I and I experience. Many people, even if they found it when they was big men and women, they still was it from there. Because there's little things that they can relate to, or they probably heard a few Rastaman. I agree with that. They agreed more with this than in that, and they just took a little time to come to that realization. But Rastafari is a journey, and the best part of that journey is when you start having children, and you prove yourself true in that point. From that point onward, if that slip, you gotta fix that, right? Before you can, you know, hold that full title. You know, it's a thing you have to keep it going every year. You know, are you with it in Rastafari? It's a liberty you have to uphold and know it, not believe it, don't have faith in it, not trust it, but know it. So it's things that you've proven, and it's things that work, things that benefit our culture. That's even the very definition of the word culture. You know, so we partake in this thing, in this way of life, because it benefits us. So that's what we're saying, and Rastafari is that, and I've become Rastafari from creation.
That's interesting analysis of Rastafari, because when I wrote, I fell into the trap, and I'll have to look at that. I wrote about Rastafari in England, that Rastafari in England. I think there's still some element of truth in that Rastafari in England were triggered. I didn't use that before, but now I'm thinking that they were triggered by the hostile racist environment, triggered them to kind of now, that's how it's been written about, how scholars have written about in England, but I might have to do a halfway house to incorporate the person. The person has some agency, that they're attracted towards Rastafari, because even though certain things were triggered, this hostile environment, they could have become Muslims, they could have joined the Nation of Islam, but there's certain things that's, especially the music, I'm thinking, the music and other things that they related to Rastafari. Yeah. Yes. I'm kind of
no, you're right. You're
right. The thing about interviews sometimes is there's knowledge that already comes or assumption, and then something will come up, and I reflect at that point in time, and then and it's for me on tape so that I can reflect and put it into my work.
Of course.
If I don't reflect at this point in time, I'll lose it.
Yes.
That's why
that's
I'm kind of reflecting that. That's kind of for me. Oh, this has been really very helpful, very broad. Now I want to kind of ask about some of the questions that I'm really interested in, and that is kind of in the chanting, the music, the way I understand now about the liberty, the dread talk, the external things, and actually the philosophy. But there's a space I really want to go more deep in for me, and that's the music, the Nyabinghi music, the chanting, and also the use of the herb. Because I'm not in the position that I can go and experience that. But that's the part that I'm interested in. I think that's like the heart of it. That's where things happen. So if you could just tell me a bit more about that, so that would be great.
Yes. Well, Rastafari drumming start from the heartbeat, called the 1-2, 1-2 order.
Yeah. Yes.
Just
I like that. Yeah.
You know, so when it's played, we have three main drums, which is like the funde, the repeater, and a bass drum.
That one is a big one.
Yeah, that's the bass drum. So that one, while you're going to, right, you got the bass drum going boom, boom, right, and also you got someone filling in bits.
Okay.
Right, like a more professional drummer, he'll be going with the feeling, right? So there's certain flicks and certain kicks that we use according to his vibe. It's something that you learn just by doing it.
Okay.
Right? So the 1-2, but you start from the 1-2. Anyone, like if you're learning the drum, you start from the 1-2.
Okay, I think I've got it now.
Yeah.
So the 1 2. So the 1 2 and that big drum are like the structure, and then the one that inside is like that fills in that space.
Yeah, like a lead, like the improvisation.
Yeah, that fills in that space, and through the 3 of them, they kind of create this music.
Right, and then now comes the chanter.
Okay.
Yeah? So the chanter comes now under this vibration. You see, it's about the breath as well. Yeah?
Okay.
So, for example, there's a few ways I could explain this. So, if you breathe in for 3 sets of 1 2, and breathe out.
Okay, so there's
for
a
the
rhythm.
other 3.
There's a rhythm going on there.
Yeah. Yeah. What you do, you go into mediumistic trance.
A what?
Mediumistic trance.
Okay, I don't know that.
Well, mediumistic trance is something where your breath slows down to about 7.5 breaths per minute.
Right.
Or waking trance is when your breath's about 3 breaths per minute. So you got different trance. You know, like the Rastafari order. You know, when the music plays, it takes you into a state of trance in different ways. Sometimes through the breathing. Some people will be breathing through it.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people will be smoking.
Okay.
Some people, you know, would be just visualize. Some people would be even breathing a lot. Some people breathing less. It depends on how the chant is guided. And but anyway, trance is we call it meditation because it's middle between sleep and awake. Yeah, because how to communicate with your higher self from the lower self, you need to find the middle point.
Yes.
Right. So that's the aim at the game, to explain it in like a mechanical term.
Right.
So the mechanics of it works like when you have the drum, you know, which welcome the forces and calms the divine energy and the vibration, it actually shoots into the earth. Yeah. And what we say, raise up the fire key, which is like raising the energy, makes us feel good. This is the sound that makes the Rasta sway from side to side. And some even close their eyes. Yeah. I some look to the sky, you know, just look at this vast universe like the sun and the moon, right? And take deep breaths, which we normally sometimes in life we go about breathing shallow.
Yes.
Like we might be sitting here,
Yes.
small breath.
Yeah.
You know, like if you came into a room where someone, you know, let off some gases, you will not breathe that much.
No. Yeah.
So that's the chant, alright. So let's move on. For the fresh air, so we chant. You go into mediumistic trance and we see pictures like this.
Okay.
So the thing about it, right? When you're in trance, you're in a programmed state. You know, and the mind is something that needs to be programmed. So what the Rastafari do, we get to the middle point and program our mind with what we want to be. Right. So we want to be a divine being. And I want to be like the king, Haile Selassie, well dressed, well educated, well have a moral force in the earth. You know, champion for human rights, defender of the Ethiopian Orthodox and Christian faith. You know, that kind of thing. Because, you know, some people are in trance when you're watching the TV and you become like, I want to be like that movie star or that whatever. Okay. We go into trance and want to be like a divine being. Emperor Haile Selassie and Empress Benin, who we see as the divine being, a good example. You know, the current example of all any religion we could have heard about before. You know, and you know, saviors and people going through harsh things. He never went through that. He went through, obviously he did go through certain harsh things, but you know, his life was significant to others, you know, with helping others. So the chants is about that. It's just to get into that middle point. We have a series of chants like I. One of my favorites, because that when you chant things like that, it reminding you that you're a divine being, which is what we really need to get that divine self-image. So the chanting is about cultivating that divine self-images and saying affirmations to the similar likeness, right? So and songs that, you know, talk about our identity in Africa, you know, and to send like warnings out there, you know. So we chant to remind ourselves, we chant to keep that alignment and that focus. And plus there's times in the year where we have to gather and celebrate as well, and chant to give thanks, and send vibrations out there in the earth. So the chanting does a lot. There's times where the chant, change nature, like the sky turn red. Sometimes with the chanting there's heavy things actually happen out there, like in government, that law change immediately. There's something like really the chant depends on the level and how much work is put into it. And the timing. There's a lot that can be achieved from the chant, even things that are called mystic. Good things, natural things, like I'm saying, going into the middle point, cultivating yourself and being a part of something that you can connect with and feel. People actually feel the drum, and they start seeing and feeling, having spiritual experiences. So when you're having these kind of experiences, it kind of affirms that you're in the right place. Because one thing why I couldn't really connect with certain other religions, I might not have felt it. I could see other people doing things, but I never feel no vibes. But when if you come to Rastafari and listen to Rastafari drumming, just see if you feel the vibes. And that vibes is a vibe that gets you on a balanced vibration, because that's what you need to be in the earth, help balance you. So the chanting and everything help to balance you and align you for the day, for the moment, for the season, for the year, for this equinox. So with the herbs involved in it now, that put a little extra, meaning here what happened now. Herbs takes you into ecstatic trance, as many scholars do know. And ecstatic trance, you can only get there by herbs and making love. Okay. So, and it's a powerful state of trance, which obviously the more powerful the state of trance and the visualization, which makes more effective the change you're looking to make in your life. So you say you go in, you're chanting, you want to change certain ways, you want to change a habit that you have. When you're under the herbs and you see yourself changing that habit, that's why Rastafari is able to get good discipline. Like if he say he's not going to do that, and you see himself not doing that, and then hold a meditation on it, think about it, and he's put that image into his mind, he can become it. Okay. He's more likely to success than just someone who says, "Oh, I'm going to give up smoking, I'm going to give up that," and they don't understand the art of how to put that into the mind. That's why people, fall back on certain disciplines that they might have started, because they're not using the accurate science, like how the Rastafari used that chant as an accurate science to get you into that middle point, to get you into a point where you change, your spirit, your mind is receptive to change. So you can grow and develop into what you need to be, because everyone's going to come at different levels of your cultivation, and that's where you join on to the chanting, that 1, 2, because it's just one heartbeat. We all have a heart. You just start from there. Your heart, you're looking into yourself, and while the music plays, and the music will bring you to that middle point. And when you reach that middle point, you can program your mind and your spirit in the right way, so that you can be successful on the journey. So the herbs now is a little bit of a boost. It's like not cheating, but it's actually it takes you into a powerful state of trance. And what people need in life is changes. People want to bring success and energy and balance in their life and oneness. This is the place to do it, in a meditation.
So the way you described it is the herb is used as a meditative adjunct to the chanting and so many other things, which is a shame that just that was now taken and used against Rastafari, as if Rastafari just smoke the herb just for pleasure, whilst actually it's a meditative and it's religious. It's used in that religious context.
Yes.
And this is why I think, and I'd like to know what you think about this, that the issue of being able to use the herb as a religious adjunct has to go through the courts. I think it has to be, the human rights or whatever argument, it has to win that argument to secure its place as being understood in the wider context, just like peyote, which is used by the Native American Indians, had to go through that, and they're exempt from Schedule 1. I still think that the herb, even though things are changing, job reform is changing, that understanding needs to happen for the wider concept, or else this stereotype or the misinformation will always be out there. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, you're right. There's stereotype and there's misinformation. And also, I was saying earlier, yes, the herb is used for the spiritual content, but herbs is also used for therapy. Some people, even if they're not using, even though it's connected, you're going to have the religious effects, even if you're using it for therapy.
When we say the herbs, I'm referring to marijuana. Is that
herbs.
saying the
Marijuana,
same
I'm
thing?
talking,
Yeah, okay, just to make sure. Yeah, for the
ganja.
tape,
So what it is, the herbs can be used for people for the therapeutic reasons. So someone could be going through a tough time, have anger problems, it may calm them down. As well, just to calm them down. Or some people, they're very stressful day, these and things, it get them calmed down. People have used herb, then they're going through difficult times as well in their life. Understand? And because it's not addictive like alcohol and these things, so a lot of humble people have found this to be their way of going through and survive, not committing suicide. So in Jamaica we don't have stress that much like in Europe. Then other stereotypes have been popped. So that herbs is allowed for you to use it in your own personal life if you need it. Not every Rastafari smoke herb, but some people really need it because they have certain issues in their life that herbs actually work good with them to keep them from causing harm to others, to themselves, and to dealing with their situation, actually getting past that point, right? Then there's then there's the herbs that we smoke and the herbs that have been commercialized like in the West. So Bob Marley would smoke and you hear lively up yourself and he's jumping up and down. And they say the hippies would smoke and you hear, yeah man, peace out. Obviously it's two different types of herbs, two different strains. It's the Rastafari one built of energy and hard work. So when you smoke, you're energetically about hard work. People who are doing hard work, they having their break, sometimes they have some herbs uplift their energy to keep them focusing on what and it helps appetite, everything. So people eat more and they're very healthy, big dumplings and everything. So so there's been other herbs, other ganjas and cannabises which have been grown in different ways outside of a religious context, because the cultivation of Rastafari herbs is very important.
Okay.
How it's cultivated in the Rastafari tradition is different from how other people cultivate it, because it's a sacred plant and it does deserve and it demands that kind of respect in the way it's planted and reaped and distributed.
How is it different?
Well, there's chanting as well.
Oh, really?
Yes,
around? Okay.
Yeah, Rastafari chant. There's certain things, not like when it's harvest time. There's certain times when the Rastafari is dealing with it, he might not have intercourse the night before or privacy. Okay. Just because he's gonna deal with certain parts of the plant, like when he's dealing with certain aspects of the female plant, or when he's reaping. There's certain little sacrifices that we do make. Sometimes you spend a night out there with plants. Okay. Right?
Completely different from the cultivation of
it's just commerce and other things that people do it for. But that's why Rastafari herb is it's a different strain. Tastes different.
Okay.
It does different. It's all different.
So there's a Rastafari strain.
Of course.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, when Rastafari grow it, it's different.
Okay.
From when someone who is not a Rastafari initiate.
So we're talking like in Jamaica now.
Yes.
So let's say Rastafari grow their strain. So there's a particular. So will the Rastafari strain be sold to other people, or would it just be amongst the Rastafari?
Well,
I'm just trying to think. Would a non-Rastafari smoke a Rastafari?
That's what they want.
Oh, right.
It's the strongest.
Oh,
it's the best.
It's the best.
Yes.
Okay, right.
It's the best because, like, I'll give you a look at it. Like the manure that it grows with makes it more potent as well. So it's a nice, stronger. Everything.
So that means the Rastafari have a particular intellectual knowledge.
Of course.
And now I want to ask a question. I'm going to come back to the chanting and thing. One thing that concerned me, one thing that I was interested to see, that if Rastafari have their own intellectual property about the particular strains, how is that protected? More so now that Jamaica has their changes in the law. And it's now going to become a commercial thing. And I'll tell you why I watched this. I watched a video on YouTube, and this guy, I can't remember his name, he's from Holland. He had free access going into Jamaica, and they were just showing him all their everything, how they grow. There was something that was growing in the pond, or I don't know, the roots were in water. The man just went in, and they were just, I would say, just revealing their intellectual property. I went to Israel. I can't imagine that same man going into Israel and them just telling him everything. I watched that film and I thought, why are they telling this guy all this? This should be something that they keep and sell to that guy at some point. I mean, I'm not a business person, but my head, I thought, this is wrong somehow. What is going on? And so and I need to now ask that. I hope that they understand that whatever strains or whatever they have should be protected. Because I know another guy that's been, I've been trying to interview him. He's been in Jamaica for like a year. I don't know what he's doing in Jamaica, but he's going there to get knowledge. So you as the council, the Rastafari Council, might have to have a word with people to now keep everything under lock and key, or else I'm not sure if Jamaica is going to be able to really get the benefit of their expertise.
Well, yeah, I mean, as a Rastafari ambassador, I take a lead in a lot of the legal things issues around Rastafari. And intellectual property is obviously one of the things that is on the agenda. And some steps have been made. Not everything hasn't been completed yet. And as I said, well, I have had to take a step back to take a step forward on a lot of issues that I've been dealing with and progressing. Now, with the intellectual property on herbs, yes, we do own our intellectual property, and yes, there's the Rastafari Global Council, and also there's another group as well, Rastafari Millennium Council, who also do a lot of work on the intellectual property for Rastafari. So, and they have a nice group of people working with them as well, including lawyers as well, just like us on this side. So, you know, it's been slow, and I understand what you're saying. You see, you know, and inner stand and overstand. It's like Rastafari has become a real African, you know, by identity, even though it was grown in the West. And always the problem with a real African, we welcome people in and we share. You know, just like when, you know, the Europeans first come to Africa, we were sharing, opening, sharing drinks, telling them of the knowledge. We still do it today in Africa. PhD students, this, that, all kind of researchers can go anywhere and get information because they freely give it. So yes, Rastafari has been a little bit behind in our works towards claiming and addressing our intellectual property. And in the meantime, yes, we are being exploited, taken a fool of, in fact, even overtaken in many respects. Because how some of the people that have done the research are getting on now with their growing herbs in Australia and here and there. I know personally even some people growing it in Australia, some scholars that really have got good information from Jamaica, and they're doing very well. Outstanding. You know herbs by the taste of it and what it does. Then there's people around the world that has yet took the knowledge and they're doing absolutely well. They might not still have reached to that final, growing that spiritual brand like Rastafari, because they're not disciplined enough. They want more commerce and make it bigger strains, and sometimes even the strain that is the good one is not, the buds are not always that big, and there's more risk of insects coming for it because it's loved by even the so everyone, so so we still have intellectual property that is not given away. I even hold some that
I just thought that
has not been given away.
I just thought I'm glad I spoke to you, because I'm not sure, I didn't know who to speak to say I hope you guys understand what to do, or how you're going to position yourself within the industry, that that Jamaica, not you guys, I don't know, will find a way. We'll speak more of tape, because it's a bit off.
Well, I think
it's a bit off topic, but we'll speak more about that.
But you see, the thing is, right? Yes, and a lot of people, like for example in Westmoreland now, they Bill Gates donated 200 mil to grow into herbs over there, and a lot of people
where
in Westmoreland, Jamaica.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you got people coming in, where we was being prosecuted for it.
Yes,
we've been to jail. We have a lot of criminal records because of herbs.
Yes.
Right? We've been stigmatized and we've been discriminated against.
Yes.
Right? For something that they would later come and say is legal and take investors who want to grow. Yeah? Obviously it's hypocrisy. And obviously there has to be redress. Rastafari is not gonna forget about redress for the wrongs done against us. And we can't forget about the capturing of our intellectual property. We have proof that it belongs to us. We have proof that there's double standards here. And obviously I don't think that they offer little license to a lot of people, which they makes them do better than they were doing. People, there's Rastaman now travel because of this new license thing. Some are underneath it, they can't go past it because they don't want to do that. Some, they even want them to grow with lights and all these things.
Yeah, well, this is what we'll talk off tape, because I actually think, I don't think it should be. Okay, we'll talk off tape, and we'll have more discussions about that, because I got an eye on Jamaica and thinking, what are they doing there? But I need to have more discussions. For example, I didn't know Bill Gates was investing in there to see, well, where is this? How are you positioning this this great opportunity? And I hope it's not going to be squandered if people don't really understand how to maneuver within this industry, because Israel is doing that.
Yes.
Israel, I went to Israel for a week, and Israel are very smart in what they're doing. So it's like, well, what is Jamaica doing? And I hope they can really be savvy about the best way to do this. Anyway, we'll talk more about that.
Yes.
So I like the way you explained, and I look forward to listening to the tape. You explained the chanting and the use of energy. It's almost like neuroscience. There's a science to it, and I feel a bit sad that this is not being written about anywhere. There's nowhere. When the books I read. Yeah, are you writing a book?
Yes, I'm an author. I've got a book out there like
Oh, I didn't see.
I even co-wrote some on the I and I consciousness as well with some scholars from the Kent University.
Oh, is it Breaking Convention?
Breaking Convention. Yeah,
okay, I haven't bought their book. I'll buy their book because they did something on Saturday that I went to.
Yeah,
I
didn't do it this year one, but the two before that.
Okay, I should look for that.
And there's a book on psychedelics, and I have a chapter in there.
Okay, I'll get
explain about I consciousness.
I'll get the details and I'll use that in my work because I've just talked very briefly based on secondary sources, just to point to that the herb is much more than the herb, because my argument really is like marijuana. There was cannabis and America made it marijuana, when we came under Schedule 1 and became another substance.
Yes.
Whereas for Rastafari, this plant has always been a herb and its use has been different. That's my whole argument. That's why I've actually introduced it into my thesis. That, there's cannabis-based medicine, there's what GW is doing, there's what Bedrockam are doing, there's what they're doing in America, which I'm not covering in my thesis, I'll do that next year. But also within that, there's something that's not been talked about at all, which, the herb, there's an absence. That's why I went looking, there's an absence in the literature. There's an absence. And that absence, for me, I don't want, even if you're writing and I'm going to write something, I still think that absence needs to be rectified in the courts, where the herb will have its place, that this is used as an adjunct, as a meditative aid.
Yeah, there is case law with people who have won cases for using herb for religious reasons, right? So there is precedence on that. I even know one man personally that the judge told him to go ahead and sell his marijuana, right? I don't have any problems with herbs. Government, they know that it's I and I religious freedom. They wouldn't trouble me at all. That's because I know my rights.
Okay,
right?
I want to talk a bit more about that.
We don't need to march for the rights herbs. You're right. More precedents could be set, and even there could be a redress for those who actually failed in the court system. Even there should be reopening appeals or compensation awarded, because it is discrimination.
Yes.
And we face discrimination at a time where people have signed to the human rights to honor it. And we have clearly stated from anyone who even write about Rastafari, even the people who don't know, they do attribute that we use herb as a sacrament. So it's so well known. So for it to be so well known and not addressed, it means that yes, it hasn't been, people haven't took these precedents from court, or actually made sure that from a Rastafari is involved in any legal action against him for the use of herb, then that should be overturned and set aside. It's quite obvious that it's his religious observance. And what they've done, because it's affected the faith on a whole, because a lot of people, it's reduced the amount of people practicing Rastafari. It's reduced the way how we relate and commune. So obviously it's had an impact on Rastafari, a negative impact.
So it's reduced, because you said not all Rastafaris.
Not all Rastafaris.
But you said it's reduced the way you commune. Because what was that an aid for communion? Was that
people meet and smoke herb, but when
it was social.
We use it as social, but it's reasoning, because it heightens reasoning. But if you're
sorry, could I ask a question? I wanted to ask about reasoning. Was the reasoning happens? That doesn't have to happen in collaboration with the chanting. The reasoning can happen at any time.
Yeah, but the thing is, the reasoning after a chant is called a groundation. It's a prescribed thing. So when I keep a service in Rastafari order, we do the chanting and the lecture. right? So the lecture of what, say if it's His Majesty event, the coronation, you do the lecture talking about all the issues around the coronation. So it's kind of a repetitive every year, so newcomers know exactly what it's about and what the day is about and things like that. And then maybe some additional. And then after that you have a groundation, which means a reasoning. Reasoning is like the Most High Jah. Because reasoning is where you can find Jah in the divine intelligence, you know, where we come together in order to reason about issues that relate to the world and the universe, you know, issues that are within our intuition at the moment. So yeah, that is a special reason that happens right after chanting. But obviously, in general, as I said, Rastafari is about the philosophy and theology and science, you know, proving things and also problem solving, figuring out our solutions. So Rastafari probably reason for a very long time. When the Rastafari meet, reasoning is good. But what's happened, you know, when you're getting arrested for carrying the sacrament, when young people are coming and say, they're arrested, you start shying away from it because it's become a ban. In society, we get looked on, they're ex-prisoners, a big criminal record, obviously, you know.
Yes, I understand.
You know, so we've been, you know, and we've been socially excluded, you know, so it pushes us all the way to the back of the queue with these decriminalizations. But if I say to any sensible MP of any country, like I've said it to, you know, MPs in the UK, starting from, and I asked the question to them all, starting from the ruling party, meaning like considering the Equality Act and the Human Rights Act, who would support an exemption for Rastafari and the herbs. So it's not illegal for Rastafari. What can they say? It's quite obvious. If you're considering the Equality Act in conjunction with the Human Rights Act, there's no way you can say no, because if you say no, that would be discrimination.
Yes.
In fact, it's quite evident throughout history, Rastafari has been discriminated.
Yes.
That is a legal issue as well.
Oh, it's a legal issue. Yes, I think that's not my area, but actually there were two lawyers that at that event on Saturday, the psychedelic event at my university, who I'm going to talk to. Charlotte Walsh and another one, two ladies that have looked at legality and Rastafari. So I'm interested to talk to them about that too. I think that my senses, I'm using intuitive. My senses is that those loose ends need to be tied up for future generations, because it's not tied down, and tying down. And the reason why I'm thinking is, I'm saying this is, tying down will actually allow people like me and other people to actually do research, because I'm looking, I've got a chapter, well, it might be a section, of looking at the herb as an entheogen. So now they're talking about ayahuasca. Because what's happened now is, I think cannabis and the herb of marijuana has become more so mainstream now. They're now looking at more exotic things like ayahuasca, iboga, things, you know. Iboga is in I didn't know about this. It's in like Gabon and Cameroon. You know, they're now using it, you know, in the global north. So they're going to the global south, you know. He didn't disseminate the way cannabis disseminated, but it's still going to be disseminated, where they're going to now say these are entheogens, these are things. And I think cannabis still needs to have a place, because you have the longest history. Rastafari has the longest history, although it's not been allowed to be used that way. Irrespective of that, you have a knowledge within your, within your bodies, and I think that needs to be registered.
Yes.
And my concern is that because of all these changes, then it might not be registered. That's what I'll put in my argument. That it might not be registered, because now, we're not going to, in England it's de facto decriminalisation because they don't have the police force anymore to do that. They've got terrorism, they've got other things. In America, it's been there are 28 states that have decriminalised already. So that history will be forgotten. We'll just get onto the business now, buying selling marijuana, selling, edibles, and then that whole history where there was persecution, where there were people that had used it for cultural and intuitive reasons, that history might just disappear in a way because it will be submerged into another narrative. And that's why I want to pull this narrative out, and that's why I'm happy that you're writing. And actually I'll use this opportunity to say, next year I'd like us to do a paper together or do a presentation together. Yeah. And I'd like to invite you to either to my university, which is in Leicester, or opportunities in other universities. I'm based in London, yes. So although I'm at Leicester, I don't go to Leicester that much, but I'll see if there's an opportunity in Leicester. I think my concern is that history is going to be submerged. You know how things move on?
Yeah, I think I'm very concerned about that as well.
Yeah, and the only way to say, well, hang on a minute, this is what happened in this period, and unless you frame it and give it a name, it will just be it will be submerged. And I think it needs to stand and say, well, cannabis as an entheogen, or else what's going to happen, or what's already happening, is other people will claim it and call it spiritual botanics, and cannabis will take a new name, and they'll use all what you've described to me, about being in a bit different, the chanting, how to use that, how Rastafari has used it. Other people will change the language and present it as something else. Yes. Health and well-being. They're already doing it.
Medical marijuana. That.
No, this is a bit more subtle, like the spiritual aspect. You see some people say as a spiritual. I saw it. I went to one or two websites in America. They're changing the language now that it's no longer under the radar. Yes. They've now rebranded it and using that history in a different way, and it's been erased because it's now acceptable to do that. There are two companies that are doing that, two websites that I've seen that I can say, we're now going green, because that's how things are commodified and used. So that we can't stop that happening, but I actually think now is the time for Rastafari to actually claim this cannabis as an entheogen. Yes. But that's what I'm going to write. That's how I'm going to see this, and that's what I'm going to propose in my writing. That this is what I said. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. In fact, these are the kind of issues that I deal with in the Global Council. Yeah. Yeah. These are important type of issues. Yeah. I'm rebuilding the intelligentsia for Rastafari. Yeah. Right, because with the intelligentsia, at least a group of the ultimate aim is like 50. But there's a lot that I do with a small number of academics and Rastafari, or even people who willing to do works for Rastafari. Because we Rastafari and black people, we work for everybody. So almost as long as you got the skill, Rastafari does have a lot of works that we do need to tie up, a lot of loose ends. Yes. And a lot of things are moving very fast, even faster than the previous leaders could catch up with. And new things come on top of that. Things like you're highlighting, and that is definitely one of the issues. We have to definitely go forward in that vein.
Yes, and it's easy to do. I mean, I see you as a rogue. We just need either someone in America, just in different continents, to say, well, actually, the herb, to rebrand the herb, because you've been given a platform now to actually rebrand it without anyone, because you don't have to say, I smoke it or whatever. This is what the herb is to us. It is on Wikipedia to say, someone writes a very good thing, and someone starts looking at, to start writing that history. And that's why I'm doing this, to say we actually start writing the history as it's happening. Exactly. You can't wait till a year or 2 years. You write it as it's happening. You have figureheads and say this is what the meaning of the herb is now. And that's why I had to kind of convince because my PhD is, if I wasn't black and I didn't have my own intellectual history, I would not be doing this interview. It's almost like it's complicated, the whole thing.
Yes.
I don't need to do it. There's enough information out there, but I have to say something is missing.
Yes.
You know, I've always, in my mind, I knew that Rastafari smoked cannabis. So they must have a history. They must have a better understanding. I started asking the question. In the thesis itself, it might only be a bit small. It might not be a main thing, but I'm going to, after the thesis, I know I'm going to continue to interview. I know I'm going to build a body of knowledge. I'm going to talk to the Black Cultural Archives to see if I can do projects with them. I know there's a history I need to write, which is beyond just my PhD.
Yeah.
It's only a small part, or it could be a paper. So I'm interested in doing a paper, an oral history paper for July. And there's something else which I'll send you a link. There's a reggae network. Did you know about it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I see you giving a paper or
there's a lot
giving
of
a
things
presentation. Or
I mean, even like I heard you mention twice now the Rastafari in Motion
exhibition. I'm telling you, I didn't meet you there, did I?
No, you didn't meet me there. But what it is, it's the RasTafari Council of Britain that initiated that whole exhibit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what happened is the exhibit was first created for Ethiopia, right? We were working on that, me and Tony Kafara and Dr. Rabi and a couple of others.
Okay.
And we invited a few more people too, because we have most of the information that's needed anyway.
Okay.
You know, we were actually going to do an exhibit before we got approached by a representative of the Crown Council in England.
Okay.
Right? So we decided to do it, and all the other houses never really wanted to work with them, so we kind of decided to, all right, we take it over.
Okay.
We started to work on it. But, you know, somewhere down the line, we kind of, there was some disagreements, and there's a registration of another company, which is like the Rastafari Liberty and the Rastafari in Motion. You know, just dividing things, right? You know, that is even one of the smaller little things why I've had to step back to move forward.
Well, it's very difficult to put. It's very difficult to put an exhibition together. So even to put an exhibition together with different people, I don't know, it's almost impossible.
Well, you see, the thing is, right, with a small team, like how we work within the Council of Britain and Rastafari Global Council, you know, you're working academically. The job is just a job. Meaning, like, the task that's at hand, you know, people, the role that you're playing, you know what you're doing. So
yes.
You're doing that part, you're doing that part, and we all know what we're doing, and the work is just the work.
Yeah.
But, you know, to be honest, right, you know, I can be very straightforward. You know, some things do get infiltrated by informers.
I don't understand this informers. I've heard a lot about informers. I don't understand the concept.
You see what it is, the history of throughout the history of Rastafari. You mentioned something earlier as well, but we have to realize as well through the history of Rastafari, it has created the interest of many people.
Yes.
Especially by, you know, starting from Bob Marley. When you say get up, stand up for your rights. Yes. It creates interest from different people.
Yes.
Some people actually don't want it to progress for different reasons.
Yes, it's a threat. It's a threat.
So without
it's
labeling.
Counterculture. Yes.
Without labeling some people right now. But I can label. But there's people who will move amongst people. There's a history even before I was born of how Rastafari has been infiltrated by informers, perpetrators, spies.
Okay.
For different reasons.
Okay, I understand.
So there's people, and also we do have some people might have bits of colonization still within the mind that needs to come out. Yeah. So we might. You're right. There will be certain unnecessary disagreements at times that hinder certain overall progresses. Yeah,
I'm just thinking about the informers. That the informers.
Yeah.
So the informers, they the informers will be amongst you to find out what we're doing. I think, with CCTV, I think they're informers all the time to find out what is going on, so that they can it's surveillance in a way. They can survey, so they can
be in control, so they can understand everything.
Yeah, but I think actually within that, then even though there might be informers, you will attract informers or people that infiltrate. But I think that there will always be an inner circle, people that you can trust that they don't know. They wouldn't know exactly. Or whatever the informer is going to find out, they can find it online. They're not going to find anything. So
there is things. You see what it is. We have progress to do. We have things to get on with. Like, as you're pointing out, certain things in Rastafari needs to be done, and there's reasons why they haven't been done. Because people take people. Wrong informers and perpetrators take people on different journeys away from what you should be doing. They disrupt something that's going good for different reasons. But I say to the informers, look, why work for them? Why not work for us?
Of course,
Tell them what I tell you to tell them. And because we are doing the good. You've been here amongst us, you see what we're doing, it's a good thing.
Of course.
So why would you try to stop good thing?
But even people that try to stop good thing, they can't stop good thing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this well. If there'll always be informers. But then maybe there needs to be a core inner circle that the informers can never they can never penetrate. Yeah. I think that's what needs to.
I agree with that. But that's why informers have to run. If they're not willing to change, they're gonna run. Yeah. Because the
informers can never change anyway.
As I said, the world is for every. I want for everyone. Yeah. I want for myself. That's love. That's how I show love. That's the reason of love. Yeah. And Rastafari is one love. What I'm trying to say, I want everyone to. I want for everyone what I want for myself. So that informer, I want for them to become a divine being.
Okay.
I would love for them to be able to come into a trance and transform a negative thinking into a positive.
Yes.
Because it is available for everyone to make that change. That's why I can show love to everyone. From the wickedest to the goodest.
That's amazing. Yeah. That I really admire that for Rastafari.
That's the foundation. Yeah. That's how I write. Yeah. One of the books I have coming out, which will deal with all these issues, is Rastafari redemption and salvation. Because that's what you want for yourself. One of the first things to be a divine being, to know yourself, and redemption and salvation of your true self, your true identity. And I want that for everyone. So informer, they don't trouble me in that way, but they still have to get a fire to understand that your actions are not 100% on point. And why would you try to disrupt and break up something that's good? But because you're going to live in a world, you're going to have children. If you have children, you don't want your children to be in a place where there's some good people over there who don't.
Some people are selfish. They don't think about themselves or their children. They live in the moment and they want.
Because they lack awareness. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. There will be a point. Either by they'll get into some serious trouble, and then the awareness they'll have to start thinking. Because people get to know yourself when your back is against the wall. They will find themselves in some serious difficulties, some serious trouble. Yeah. Because as they say, herikuti or karma, or what goes around comes around.
Yes.
So when you try to disrupt good things, you're gonna be disrupted as well, and your family. So it's not gonna pay them. The informers are just making their own judgment, and when they come amongst like the I and I, they face in the real fire, because the real fire is pure. Because I have love. I want you for you, where I want by itself, and that energy alone makes I and I undefeatable. And them defeatable, because they want bad for I. So the thing that he wished for I is going to come back on him, and I don't wish no bad for him. See it? Yeah. So I always can create a balance, no matter what. But sometimes, you just have to be wise. Obviously there's certain people you work with, certain people you don't work with. I always interested to be really. I know people. I deal with the priestly order, so I can read people.
Okay.
You know, I feel your energy.
Right.
I know your vibes. I know where you're coming from. So it's not difficult for I.
Yes,
so I know to tell what and who not to tell.
Yeah. Okay.
So I have a blessing or a gift there. You know. So it won't affect us, but it does affect us.
Okay.
You know, it does hinder progress. But the thing about it, what's good, sometimes in life, you know, the difficulty of the task, the more you get from it. So like we said in Rastafari, the hotter the battle, the sweeter the victory.
Okay.
So like if you're lifting more weight, you get more stronger. So the higher the resistance, the more it takes to push it over. So Rastafari, it's no point just getting any false respect. Let's move over the big obstacles and still be Rastafari. As you said before, you know, it can't stop spiritual power. You know, what is the will of the Most High has to be done, and there's nothing wrong. Nothing can stop that. And all experiences, whether with informers, perpetrators, or spies, is for the cultivation of ourselves still. Because all experiences are still based around the whole divine plan of the world, so that we can become divine beings and realize and know that I and I.
Wow, we've covered quite a lot. I don't know what the time is. 2 hours. Wow, this is the longest interview I've done. So on that level, I think we'll stop this interview. I just want to thank you for your sharing and for your time. This is going to be very useful for me. I want to write a paper about, you know, the urban religion. Just some of the things you've told me is what I'm going to build my paper on actually. And I'd love to come and talk to you another time, but I've not spent 2 hours on an interview before. We normally just do an hour and then stop. I didn't realise the time had gone so fast. But I thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm tempted to become a Rastafari myself. I want, but I'd like to. I don't know if it's possible for me to come to see one of the services, if I can do that without it being obtrusive. I'd love to do that.
Well, yes. Rastafari, as you know, Rastafari is very welcoming. You've just highlighted people even looking strange going in and getting all the information that required. You know what I mean? Look at they done the Smithsonian exhibit just by asking Rastafari Beating. All of that we own that. We own everything Smithsonian talk. Everything.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
We want it.
It was. I saw it online. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember when it happened. It happened a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Smithsonian have the whole of everything.
Yeah.
That one go Sheppy and then man they tell them everything. But we own it still.
I think it's
how
time.
we go and get it.
It's time for Rastafari. I think a lot of interesting things are going to be happening. I think there's going to be a whole.
If we get more people for the intelligentsia, people like the I. People like who are
I think the people are already there.
No, but they need to come and check I. They need to shout me. Rasta Binghi Konganaya.
I think you guys are.
See?
Yeah, it's a matter of disseminating it. It's a matter of just even getting people interested and getting people talking about, you know, what did you assume Rastafari was? What do you know, to even say the herb, how, you know, what I'm doing here, to say, how is the herb used? How is it used in a different context? The set and the setting, how that transforms this drug, which is supposed to be used as a drug for pleasure, for hedonistic reasons. Actually, it's used for a different thing. I think it's there. It's just a matter of getting the conversation going.
It needs a rebuilding, because as I said, Rastafari, when you have your house in order, that's when you're ready for leadership.
Yeah.
You can go ahead. So, like say Rastafari in his whole, we need to just have a little more organizing and centralizing to go back up. There was a point where we was, and we did move forward.
Just to finish off, when do you think, what's your hope for Rastafari now? When do you think the houses are going to be in order? I mean, you guys have mansions. I mean, mansions. What other religion has a mansion? Well, you guys have mansions.
It has the structure now for organizing, because so now it's Rastafari broad-based community organizing, like for example. So all Rastafari leaders are members on the RasTafari Global Council. So there's loads of Rastafari organizations in the world, and they should all be, the leader should be a part of the board of the RasTafari Global Council. From there, they put their 2 issues on the table, and everyone works on the most winnable one first, and we start.
And that's the process you're going through.
We get rid of all our issues then. Some of them are so easy, some of them are so easy. Even like the herbs, as I said, it's just certain things, certain litigations have to happen, intellectual property. We have, and if we sum it up, we'll be able to deal with these issues quite easily. But we do.
How soon do you think?
It's right now. I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
So would you think, like, if I have a conversation with you next year, you would have thought, oh, the houses are in order, this is what we're now doing?
Well, yeah. Okay. We make progress every year.
Okay. Course. All right then. So thank you so much, and I think that's 2 hours and 40 yes. I've just seen. I've broken a record. Thank you for your patience. I didn't. Wow, this is the longest interview.